Welcome to a full TLDR Wrath guide for Ulduar normal mode, because the best raid needs the best guide. First up is Flame Leviathan. This fight is entirely in vehicles, each with a driver and a passenger, who each have their own jobs. Demolisher drivers need to maintain 10 stacks of throw pyrite on the boss, refreshing at around 5 seconds and filling with throw boulder. Their passengers shoot down and collect pyrite canisters and have a speed boost, and they also get launched on top of the boss to deal with the turrets. Siege engine drivers need to interrupt the boss, and their passengers need to use fire cannon to DPS the boss and ignite tar on the ground. Chopper drivers drop the tar in front of the boss and pick up players on the ground, and their passengers wonder if they should have called an Uber instead. The fight is pretty simple once you get used to it, so don't worry if it sounds like a lot. Before the boss, there's a gauntlet of ads, so you can use them to get used to the abilities. And once you know it all, you can AFK farm in RuneScape while you clear it every week. Before killing the ads in front of the gate, sit at the entrance and shoot down as much pyrite as you can. This should give enough pyrite canisters for demolishers to only use throw pyrite so long as the passengers keep up with refueling, if you can get there first. Now for the actual boss, who spends the entire fight chasing a target, swapping every 30 seconds. If it's on you, use your speed boost to get away and kite it around the room. He deals damage to random players, so take it like a champ because you can't avoid it. Flame vents needs to be interrupted ASAP by the siege engines, and don't be in front of the boss unless you like being rammed. The boss has 4 turrets or 2 on 10 man, which need to be destroyed by demolisher passengers being launched on top of it. You'll all be thrown off when they die and parachute onto the floor, and you'll take damage on the ground, so get back to your vehicle quick. The boss gets stunned and takes increased damage, so all demolishers should have max pyrite stacks and everyone damage the boss while it's stunned. The fight can be done without destroying the turrets, so only do it if his speed buff gets too high before you can kill it. Keep it going until the boss is dead. Next up is Razorscale. Razorscale is a 2-phase fight, an air phase fighting ads, and a ground phase with only the boss, which triggers at 50%. During phase 1, the boss will be in the air attacking the raid while NPCs build harpoons to bring her down. The boss shoots fireballs at random players that deal a hit of damage, and Devouring Flame, which leaves a patch of fire on the floor, so don't stand in it. On the cliff side of the platform, ads spawn in mole machines to stop the NPCs, which you need to kill. Sentinels are top priority when they spawn and should be focused down. They hit pretty hard and have a whirlwind attack that'll probably kill any meatheads who go near them, so range should be the ones to kill them. Watchers cast Lightning Bolt, which is a hit of damage, and Chain Lightning that's more dangerous, so it needs to be interrupted. Have fun watching your PvPers sweating, trying not to interrupt the wrong one. And Guardians are about as dangerous as an E-boy on an Xbox mic, so kill them last. When all 4 harpoons are built, interact with each of them to bring down the boss, and make sure you don't have any sentinels alive when you do it. The boss will sit in the middle of the platform in front of the harpoons for everyone to go ham on and do as much damage as possible. Pop Lust during the first one, then bring her down to 50% during the second. When she's about to take off, she does a frontal breath followed by a knockback, so everyone should always be behind her. When you do get her to 50%, she stays on the ground, gets 2 new abilities, and the ads stop spawning. Fuse Armor is a tank debuff, reducing armor, attack, and movement speed by 20%, stacking up to 5 times. Swap on 4 stacks or before you start to melt. She keeps the frontal breath, so make sure to face her away from the raid, and she still does Devouring Flame patches under players, so keep not standing in them. And finally, Flame Buffet is a stacking raid-wide debuff, increasing fire damage taken, so you'll have to kill her before you will melt faster than Twitter policy. Now for Ignis. Ignis is a simple fight as long as you manage the ads properly and only requires 1 tank. The raid stands in the middle of the room as the tank moves the boss around in a square after each Scorch cast. Scorch is a large frontal that deals big damage, so tanks should face him away from the raid, and it leaves a large patch on the floor that no one should stand in. Flame Jets is a short cast that spawns fire under everyone, dealing damage, knocking you up, and interrupting any mages who are desperate to finish casting for 6 seconds. It also gives a short dot for healers to feel like they're useful. Slag Pot puts a random player in his kangaroo pouch and deals heavy damage for 10 seconds, so healers need to spot heal them or they'll probably fucking die. While inside, you can't attack, but you can still heal, and if your healers were nice enough to keep you alive, even though you may have suggested they don't do anything, you get 150% haste buff. The boss summons sentinel ads from the edges of the room, which a DPS needs to kite over the scorch patches on the floor. The ad gains stacks in the fire and becomes molten when it reaches 10, pulsing AoE damage to anyone too close. To keep the ad in the fire without forcing a DPS to sit in it as well, have someone, ideally a druid, root the ad in the fire to keep it there. When it becomes molten, have the druid kite the ad into the water pools at the side of the room and they'll be stunned for 20 seconds. Destroy them by dealing a large amount of damage from a single spell, so have someone kill it, ideally a mage with Arcane Blast, but other brands are available. While the ads are alive, the boss gains a stacking damage buff, which is removed when they die. When people have enough gear, you can perma-root the ads when they spawn, ignore them completely, and just funnel the boss for a quick and easy tank and spank. Next is XT. Deconstructor alternates between a boss phase and an ad phase, which happens every 25% health. During the boss phase, tank him at the stairs with the raid stack behind. Gravity Bomb and Searing Light both make someone pulse AoE damage, so if you get either of them, get the fuck out of the group. Searing Light gives a dot, so healers should spot heal them, and Gravity Bomb pulls in anyone within 20 yards when it goes off and deals big damage. The boss also does Tantrum, stunning anyone near and doing 10% health a second for 12 seconds. This is where healers should hit their oh shit buttons if you have them to keep everyone alive. Every 25%, the boss shuts down and summons ads from the rubble piles nearby. Boombots deal big AoE on death, so have ranged kill them. Scrapbots don't have much health, but heal the boss if they reach him, so have some boomies press Starfall. And pummelers need to be picked up by a tank as they have a heavy melee and a frontal. As soon as the boss reactivates, swap to him and have ranged clean up any ads, but but ignore the pummelers until the next ad phase where you can kill them while waiting for the new ads to spawn. Healers just keep the off-tank alive in the meantime. Keep it going until the boss is dead. First inside is Council of Iron. This fight has 3 bosses but is full single target, as when you kill one, the other 2 heal to full, gain a damage buff and additional abilities, but affliction locks will probably dot them all anyway. The normal kill order is Steelbreaker, then Molgheim, then Brundir. In phase 1, have one tank take Steelbreaker and the other take Molgheim and Brundir, but if your off tank snaps like a pretzel stick, take another and split them. Keep Brundir away from the group as he occasionally casts a 30-yard AoE. He also casts a Chain Lightning, which should be interrupted when you can, but isn't a priority. Molgheim gets a damage shield, which buffs him if you break it, so dispel it instead, or see which of your mages has the fastest spell steal in the West. He puts a Rune of Power under a random boss, which they need to be dragged out of, but it also gives players a damage buff, so everyone's stuck inside it. Steelbreaker deals raid-wide ticking damage for healers to deal with until he dies, and he hits the tank extra hard, which gives a heavy dot, so healers need to focus heal and dispel it ASAP. After Steelbreaker dies, it's Molgheim next. He now gets Rune of Death, a giant green mark on the floor, so don't stand in it, and Brundir now casts Lightning Whirl, dealing damage to random targets, so keep it interrupted. Assign an interrupt rotation to kick this and Chain Lightning and keep your healers happy. After Molgheim dies, you're left with Brundir. He now uses lightning tendrils, flying through the air after random targets and dealing large damage to anyone underneath. Try to stay away, but it's pretty hard, so healers will need to keep everyone alive while you get curb stomped. Make sure to avoid his overload, and it's an easy kill. Next up is Kologarn. Kologarn is an easy fight, with a main boss and 2 respawning arms. Destroying an arm reduces the boss health by 15% and spawns some adds. They deal AoE damage around them, so just let a tank pick them up and kill them because they're fairly weak. An arm will respawn after 30 seconds, so keep destroying the right arm, the one on the left of the platform, and ignore the other one. If no one is in melee range of the boss, he deals raid-wide AoE, so give him a nice big hug. Focused I-beam are 2 lasers that chase someone, so either immune it or run away. Overhead smash is a tank hit that gives an armor reduction. Swap on 2 stacks or try to show off, then panic when you almost get one shot. The left arm, on the right of the platform, occasionally deals heavy raid-wide damage for healers to deal with, and the right arm, on the left of the platform, grabs a few players, in-capping them and dealing damage to them. Break them free by damaging the arm while the healers keep them alive. And that's it. Keep destroying the right arm because it's more annoying than the left one, then swap to the boss until it's dead. Now for Auriaya. Auriaya patrols the inner circle with her 4 cats which need to be tanked. You'll get 2 tanks tanking 2 cats each, and 1 taking the boss. Healers keep the tanks up, and DPS kill off the ads quick. With gear, 1 tank could try to take all 4, but they kind of hurt, so attempt at your own risk. For the boss, Sonic Screech is split damage in a frontal cone, so everyone should stay stacked on the tank so it basically does nothing. Terrifying Screech is a mass fear for shamans to feel special by pressing Tremor Totem, or to forget and get abused by the raid. Sentinel Blast is a hit of shadow damage with a stacking damage debuff, but it can be interrupted, so you should do it. And Guardian Swarm spawns 10 ads on a player that do about as much as a mage with no ego, so just cleave them down. After about a minute, the boss summons a Defender Cat that charges and stuns random players and gives them a dot. Get your own back by stunning it yourself, but everyone should swap and kill it instantly. When it dies, it drops a Void Zone on the floor, so either have a DK grip it out of the group just before, or kite the boss further around the circle. After a short while, it'll respawn, and if you line of sight the pool against the wall, it prevents it from instantly targeting someone. Keep killing the Guardian and work down the boss until she dies. The first keeper is Freya. The fight has 2 phases, starting with an ad phase, then a boss phase. During both phases, she spawns trees that heal enemies, so kill it ASAP, and she makes someone deal splash damage for healers to deal with. Phase 1 is 6 ad waves, 1 every 60 seconds, with 3 different sets of ads, and the boss heals herself, so don't bother attacking her. Detonating lashes target random players and explode when they die. Stagger killing them, or you'll probably fucking die, so resist that shiny starfall button. Conservators stop you doing anything unless you're under a mushroom, so move under one when they spawn. They also make someone pulse AoE damage, so split between the mushrooms and move out if it's on you. And lastly is a trio of ads. Have 1 tank take the Snap Lasher and another take the Water Spirit and Storm Lasher. They all need to die together, so have ranged on the Water Spirit and Storm Lasher and melee on the Snap Lasher. The Storm Lasher damages random targets and has a Chain Lightning. The Water Spirit has a charge, so watch out. And the Snap Lasher gets a stacking buff while being attacked, so slow it and kite it around while the melee follow like baby ducks. The buff drops after 5 seconds of no damage, so if you need to, call for stop damage if you can persuade their melee brains. After all waves are dead, the boss loses her healing buff, so you can all swap to her. She still casts the AoE and summons the tree, but will now spawn Nature Bombs. These are green pods that deal AoE, so move the boss away and ignore your complaining casters because you'll be moving a lot. Have melee stack on the boss and range stack further behind. Put down 2 markers for each group and swap between them whenever the bombs spawn. Keep it going and kill the boss. Next up is Hodir. Hodir starts with frozen NPCs that buff the raid, so break them out first. The Shamans give someone a buff that increases crit strike damage of nearby players, and the Druids spawn white beams that increase attack and casting speed while you stand in them, and Mages spawn fires that help with the raid-wide debuff. Everyone gets a stacking dot during the fight, which only drops by moving or jumping. strong. Tanks kite the boss and melee should be fine, but casters will be jumping more than a combusting fire mage. For tanks, Frozen Blows is a 20-second buff that makes the boss's hits deal big frost damage instead of physical. If one tank can be defense capped with a bit of frost resist gear, you'll only need the one, otherwise have a frost resist tank take him until it ends. He also does raid-wide ticking damage while it's up. Freeze does what it says on the tin and freezes you and anyone nearby, so stay spread. And healers can dispel frozen shitters to release them. Glowing runes on the floor are falling icicles, so don't stand in them. Larger runes spawn snowdrifts as safe zones right before flash freeze, which hits anyone outside of them and locks them in ice. And if anyone is already frozen, they'll be one-shot. And that's it. Repeat the cycle until the boss is dead. Next is Thorim. Phase 1 is the arena and the gauntlet, and you'll need to split into 2 groups. Each needs a tank and healers, and the casters are better for the gauntlet. In the arena, ad waves appear until the gauntlet team are done. Evokers are top priority to stop any raiders thinking about dragonflight, but they also heal and shield enemies. Champions are next as they deal a lot of damage and have a whirlwind. And warbringers buff nearby enemies, but they can be mind controlled by a priest to get it for a party. It used to be the whole raid, but that's what asking for pre-nerf gets you. Lastly are commoners who don't do much, so just cleave them down. Thorim casts Stormhammer from above, stunning random players and making them silence anyone near them. And he charges the pillars at the edge that spark anyone close to them, so move away. The gauntlet team makes their way to Thorim by clearing trash and 2 mini-bosses. First are acolytes who heal and ring guards who stun anyone nearby, so kill the acolytes first. The first mini-boss stands at the end of the corridor and sends shockwaves towards you based on his glowing hands, so avoid it while moving towards him. When you get to him, he has a frontal smash, so face him away. He puts a shield up that reduces damage, and he charges people and knocks them back. He can cast his smash right after charging, so move away quick. The next corridor has constantly spawning acolytes and honor guards, so keep the group moving to get to the last mini-boss. The honor guards just have a cleave, a slow, and a stun. When you get to the next mini-boss, Stomp damages anyone near him, and Rune Detonation roots someone and makes them explode, so spread out and move away from whoever gets it. After it's dead, you get to run to Thorim, but avoid the circles on the ground unless you want to grief the group. When you attack him, he jumps into the arena and starts phase 2. Try to have the gauntlet tank pick him up first, and everyone clean up whatever ads are left. Then range spread around the room, and melee spread around the boss. Chain lightning happens every 8 seconds and increases damage the more people it hits, so this is reduced by spreading, hopefully. Unbalancing Strike is the tank hit, which reduces your defense skill, so swap on every hit or it'll feel like you're wearing a paper bag. He still charges the pillars, but now they channel into him, so don't run into the lightning. Lightning charges a frontal that buffs his damage and attack speed and acts as the soft enrage. He aims it at whichever pillar is currently charged, so always stand further away than each pillar on either side of the active one. Kill the boss before your healers run out of their will to live. The last keeper is Mimiron. This fight has 3 bosses, 1 per phase, and the last phase is all 3 at once. Phase 1 is the wheels. Tanks keep the boss in the middle of the room as he throws out rings of mines. Plasma Blast is a heavy channel on the tank, so keep them alive. Napalm Shell targets a ranged player and deals splash damage, so spread out. And Shock Blast is a 20-yard AoE for melee to run away from, but try to run in between the mines and not over them. Phase 2 is the torso, and is quite healing intensive due to Heat Wave, a raid-wide hit with a heavy dot that goes out fairly often. If your healers snap under waffle-thin pressure, pop Lust in this phase. Rapid Burst is a cone of damage on someone, so split into 2 ranged groups and a melee group, and each stand in 1/3 of the room to reduce it. Red circles on the floor will one-shot you, so don't stand in them. And the boss rotates with a bullet beam, so dodge it or die, but at least you get a channel to know when it's coming. Phase 3 is the head with a bunch of ads. Have a warlock tank the head as normal tanks can't hit it, with ranged attack in the head and melee on the ads. Have a tank take the assault bots because they kind of hurt, and the junk bots that are basically useless unless they're molesting your mages. And any plate wearer should taunt and kite the bomb bots away from the raid and blow them up, and you should be fine. Should be. Have someone loot the assault bots for their magnetic cores and use them to bring down the boss. It'll take increased damage while it's down, so get 2 cores, lust, and pump it. During the phase transition, clean up any ads and get ready for a clusterfuck. The final phase is all 3 bosses together, and they each start at 50% health. Kill them within 10 to 15 seconds of each other, or they'll heal and you'll cry. Use the same positioning from phase 1 with range spreading out, and each boss will have a few abilities from each phase. The wheels throws out mines and the shock blast AoE. The torso uses rocket strike, the rotating bullet laser, and hand pulse, which is the same as rapid burst. And the head just attacks the same target it did in phase 3, so keep whichever unlucky ranged you had on it. Crash and burn until you manage a lucky kill. Next is General Vezax. This fight is all about mana management, as everyone gets a debuff preventing any mana regen aside from a few sources. No MP5, no potions, and no evocation, because even Blizzard got tired of mages. To regen mana, Vapor ads spawn around the room and drop a pool when they die. Standing in the pool gives a stacking buff that gives you mana but deals damage. Don't go higher than 4 to 5 stacks to preserve healer mana. If you leave them all alive, you'll start the hard mode, so kill them ASAP. Split the ranged into groups, each with a healer, and spread out around the room to cover as much as you can. And if one group runs out of mana because their Vapor RNG was bad, be nice and let them take take the next one. For tanks, Surge of Darkness buffs the boss but reduces his movement speed, so kite it if you get bored, or pop a defensive and just heal through it. Shadow Crash is a missile on a ranged player that deals splash damage, so dodge it, and it drops a void pool that gives DPS some tasty buffs, so be sure to stand in it. It does reduce healing though, so bad luck healers. Mark of the Faceless targets a random ranged player, drains health from anyone near them, and heals the boss for a fuck ton, so if you get it, get the fuck away. And Searing Flames is basically a wipe if you don't kick it, so blame your rogues if it goes off. Keep it going until the boss is dead. Finally, we get to Yogg-Saron. Yogg has 3 phases, and you'll need to make a group of 10 players to be the Brain Trust in Phase 2. First though, each of the keepers will give a buff to the raid, giving everyone more damage, healing, health, and movement speed. Freya will spawn green sanity wells, which restore your sanity. Hodir saves any shitters who die every 25 seconds. Mimiron makes ads attack and cast slower, and Thorim kills the Guardians in Phase 3. Choose as many as you want, but choosing none of them is the hard mode achievement. During Phase 1, Sara is an NPC that sits in the middle of the room while ads spawn from clouds. Dodge the moving farts around the room or you'll spawn more, which your tanks won't like. Sara also buffs the raid to act like she's being nice. Fervor increases damage done as well as damage taken. Blessing heals you but gives a dot for twice as much. And Anger increases an ad's damage and gives it a dot. The ads cast Dark Volley, which hits anyone nearby, but it should be kicked. And Dominate Mind is a mind control that needs to be purged or dispelled ASAP. Kill the ads near Sara and they do an AoE when they die, so either heal through it or have a tank pull it to her at low health and have ranged kill it. When you've killed 8 ads on top of her, Phase 2 will start and now you have sanity to deal with. Drop to 0 and you'll be mind controlled even if you get rezzed, which sucks for any shitters who think they can get rid of it. This phase is split between Upstairs and the Brain Broom, and melee are better for the Brain Train. Upstairs, there are 3 types of tentacle ads that need to be killed. Constrictors are top prio as they grab someone and deal heavy damage, but you can use immunities or Hand of Protection to get them out. Crushers get a damage buff while they're being attacked, so have ranged kill them, and when they cast Diminished Power, stop damage, let the buff drop, and have a tank hit them to interrupt it. Corruptors are last and throw out a handful of dispellable debuffs on the raid. A curse, disease, magic effect, and poison, so if you can't dispel any of them, you're gonna have a bad time. Kill these when there's nothing else, or there's too many for you to handle. Upstairs will also have Sara throwing shit at them. Death Ray is green beams to avoid. Psychosis is unavoidable damage and sanity loss because fuck you. And Brain Link connects 2 players with a beam that deals damage and sanity loss if you're too far away, so stack up with your buddy. Brainiacs click the portals around the room to go into the visions. Fear Skulls deal damage and reduce sanity if you're facing them, so show them your ass while you hunt for hentai. Kill all the fake NPCs to reveal the brain of Yogg. The brain has a 60-second cast that MCs everyone inside, so get out before it goes off. And while attacking the brain, the tentacles upstairs get stunned, so the upstairs team move around the room to clean them up. Bring the brain to 30% to trigger Phase 3, but try to clear the tentacles first. Stack the raid to the side of Yogg and balance DPS between the boss and the ads. Guardian ads have stacks of a damage buff that drop when you attack it, so they do get easier over time. They don't do anything major, but they do need to be tanked, and at 1% Thorim will kill them. The only other ability is Lunatic Gaze, which is the same as the skulls from Phase 2, so don't look at the boss when it casts. All that's left is to burn down the boss and finish the raid. And lastly is Algalon. Algalon is a simple fight and has 2 phases. He does a fuckload of damage and has a short enrage timer, so don't let the simplicity fool you. Tanks are treated like punching bags as his melee hit and Quantum Strike really fucking hurt. And Phase Punch sends you to the Shadow Realm at 5 stacks, so swap at 3 to 4 and let it drop off before the other tank gets Yu-Gi-Oh'd. Cosmic Smash is 3 void zones under players every 25 seconds that deals fall-off damage, and if you're inside them, you'll probably fucking die. Try not to stand right next to them, but you'll take a shitload of damage anyway. Collapsing Stars are ads that lose health over time, then deal raid-wide damage and drop a black hole when they die. Stand in them to go to the Shadow Realm to win your grandpa's soul, but also to avoid the Big Bang. This caster one-shot anyone left in the main realm, but if no one's hit, everyone will die, so have a tank or a priest with dispersion take the hit. Leave it till late if you want to min-max damage, as you'll take ticking damage in the Shadow Realm and you can't hit the boss. To clean up unwanted black holes, living constellations are ads that spawn in sets of 3 and need to be kited over them to make them both disappear. They don't do much damage, so just let the off-tank grab and get rid of them. Once you hit 20%, everything despawns and you'll start the burn phase. 4 new black holes appear that spawn ads every 30 seconds, so have the off-tank pick them up and pull them to the boss to cleave them down. Now it's just a race against the clock to beat that enrage timer and kill the last boss of the raid. Congrats on finishing the raid. Thanks for all the support and for 4,000 subscribers. Like and subscribe if you want more classic guides, and I'll catch you in the next one.